We officially have 90 days until college basketball, and number 90 team in the country, we have the DePaul Blue Demons. Definitely a big upgrade from where they were last year, above 300th in Ken Palm. Not good at all. But yeah, before we really get into the video, make sure to follow at Hoop Scoop Media on Instagram and Twitter, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, assuming you're watching us there, and also give us a hit that post notification bell so you stay updated for every single top 100 countdown video. Number 90 right now to Paul. So yeah, we still have a lot of videos left that you will not want to miss. So make sure to hit that bell. Make sure to also follow Luke at College Hoops Outlet and on Instagram, and at CHO Talk Sports on Twitter. We might have some rough audio this episode from him.
Yeah, new
So
computer. I'm not sure. I think the camera's better, but I'm not sure about the audio, so we'll get it
yeah,
figured out.
we will get it figured out. If it shouldn't be bad enough that like you can't listen to it at all, and it's gonna be like a terrible time. So if you really want to hear about DePaul, and how they're gonna be vastly improved from last season, you should stick around for this. But yeah, as I mentioned a few times during the intro, it's been tough for DePaul basketball fans. A few that there are, but there are some good DePaul Twitter follows. I will say that. But yeah, they haven't been good for a long time. The last time they made a tournament was 2004. Um, Tony Stubblefield hired their previous coach, was an absolute disaster. Probably shouldn't have hired him in the first place. Hindsight is always 2020, but it ended pretty badly. Won zero conference games, won three games overall this past season. So not great, as I mentioned, outside of 300s in Ken Palm, which is like unheard of for high major. I think the only other high major to do that was Utah. I think that was their first year in the Pac-12 out of the Mountain West. Um, but yeah, the fact being they were bad. But yeah, then they hired Chris Holtmann, who actually, similar to Stubblefield, was fired mid-season this year, but he's proven to win a lot in the past. Really won at Butler. Honestly, really won at Ohio State before he didn't, and things just kind of started going downhill. Yeah, but yeah, overall, what are your thoughts on this hire? I know we reviewed it in the Coaching Changes podcast. Listen to that if you want to hear every single hire, and our grade. But yeah.
Yeah, the last two seasons kind of went off the rails. We talked about that in that video. But overall, I don't think DePaul could have got much better of a hire with the status of the program. You got a guy that's coached at two different high major programs and been at least mildly successful at them. And yeah, just high major experience, and I think he injects some new life in this program.
Yes, really won in the Big East, honestly. When he was at Butler, made the tournament 3 out of his 3 years there, and won a game all of those years. So yes, they also, speaking about Butler, they also got Laval Jordan as their like one of their assistants. I think he'll be good. Bryant Mullins was a very good assistant hire in my opinion. I don't even think he should have been fired from Southern Illinois. So good staff constructed by Holtman. And yeah, as I mentioned, very accomplished coach in his past. And DePaul, the roster, they lost everyone from last year, which where they were last year is a very good thing. Don't want to have anything associated with that team coming back, but the guys who did lose, just recapping where they're at now: Elijah Fisher transferred to Pacific, Deshaun Nelson, and Jalen Terry off to Eastern Michigan. Jaden Henley transferred to UNLV. Jeremiah Odin is at Charlotte now. Chico Carter exhausted his eligibility. KT Ramey transferred to UT Rio Grande Valley. Churchill Abbas transferred to Wake Forest. Caleb Murphy transferred to UMass Lowell. Keandre Young transferred to Oklahoma Christian. Mackie Etienne transferred to LaSalle, and Dramani Kamara transferred to Norfolk State. That just shows you like the caliber of schools those guys are transferring to are not very high level schools for the most part. I think some of those guys can make impacts on decent teams, but it's bad. No one really went in those guys. But yeah, so Holtman really had his work cut out for him. And yeah, he got his whole roster brand new. Starting from an addition within the city in Isaiah Rivera from UIC, shot the ball really well from three this season, over 40%. Also showed some three-level scoring overall, and yeah, I think he'll be a pretty positive impact on this year one. I believe it's last year of eligibility, so it's some
Y-
experience there.
Yeah, I think he'll be a big piece as just that locker room leader and a guy who's um, been a high impact player at a couple different schools. Good all around scorer as an off guard, 46% and from the field, 42% from three last year. So I like what he brings in.
Yes, and he played on that Colorado State team that made a tournament in 2022. So he does have some experience playing for high level teams as well. Another guy that comes in, David Skogman from Davidson, a 4-5, big man, but can really stretch the floor. More of definitely offensive oriented big man. Really efficient scorer overall. No matter where he's scoring from, he's very good at taking shots, taking high efficiency shots. And this year was actually his best shooting year. He did get hurt about 15 games into the season. Was making about two threes a game on nearly 50%. So that's definitely inspiring to see. He's always been a good shooter, but this was definitely his highest volume year from deep. So really like what he can bring offensively.
Yeah, he's a bit different from the other bigs they have. You mentioned 47% from three, and that's four attempts a game, so really high volume. Not the best defender, but I think the other guys make up for
Hmm.
that.
Definitely agree with that. And Holman, like we said in the portal, youth is a big thing to prioritize, and he did that to an extent with taking some freshman transfers that have 3 years of eligibility left. One of the big names there is Layden Blocker from Arkansas. Was a very highly regarded prospect in the class of 2023. And honestly, whenever I was watching Arkansas and he was in there, I think they played better. Maybe that's more of an eye test versus the analytical numbers, but I feel like he really brought a lot of energy, solid defense to the court whenever he was in the game. And I did you feel that same way?
Yeah, I wrote that down. Good defensively, athletic, brings some energy onto the floor. And yeah, you mentioned high potential guy, and 3 years under Holtman, I think he can develop into something.
Yes, definitely a player that could be all Big East later in his career. Um, Another one of those rising sophomores is Jacob Meyer. He was Coastal Carolina's go-to guy this year. They were not very good, but he was still their primary scoring option as a freshman. Another three-level scorer, decently athletic, that shouldn't have any problems really transferring up. So, yeah, I mean, I think he'll be a another solid option. Lot of years to work with and lot of skill to work with.
Yeah, I think him or Rivera will end up being the leading scorer this year. I really like what he brings, an elite scorer, 45% from the field, 40% from three. And then another guy with 3 years. So Holtman really building for the future. A lot of 2 and 3 year transfers.
Yep, David Thomas, the other guy with 3 years of eligibility left. Another guy that really had a successful freshman season. He played for Mercer and was really playing some good basketball at the end of the year. Really scoring the ball well. Is able to play both guard positions. Yeah, can score inside now. Is shooting the ball well towards the end of the year. Not a huge volume 3-point shooter, but definitely, I believe he shot at like 40% or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, just above 40%. There's a lot of guys on this roster that are above 40% from three, which I really like. Trying to build this team from the bottom from Holtman.
Yeah, but yeah, Thomas, very good pickup there. With his eligibility, how he was playing towards the end of the season, I think lines up pretty good. Yeah, and another guy that Holman took, we mentioned a little bit, kind of referred to earlier, is NJ Benson from Missouri State. He is the defensive big man that we alluded to. And yeah, he's a really good analytics guy. If you're into the analytics as I am, his numbers definitely pop out from there. Very efficient, very good rebounder. Very good shot blocker. Gives you that defensive big, and also can score the ball inside when you need him to.
Yeah, he provides everything you want in the front court. Really, when you have Skogman to be your shooter, Benson provides everything else: rebounder, defender, paint presence as a shot blocker. And you mentioned really good on the analytical side of things as well.
Yes. They're definitely very different players. From a stylistic perspective, but I will say that he kind of had like a role similar to Jonathan Mogbo at Missouri State, and then Mogbo like was like a borderline All-American. That's not going to happen with Benson, but coming from the same program, very different players, but there definitely is some potential that he can like really break out if he gets in a better system. Not super high on Dana Ford's ability to actually like develop talent and maximize it. So yeah, I really like Benson though. Um, Another guy from the Missouri Valley, Connor Enright, probably one of my favorite players in college basketball. He is a dog. Really plays with that high intensity defensively, offensively. Just plays with so much energy anytime he steps on the court and can shoot the ball too. Gives a solid point guard. Yeah, his defense and shooting from Chicago can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite players to watch, and he follows college hoops outlets, so he's a real one there. Hopefully he'll tune in, but brings a lot both sides of the court. 44% from three attempts a game. Always hits that big shot when you need it, and the stats don't really pop. 7, 3, and 3 at Drake, but he makes winning plays on both sides of the floor. So I really like what he brings at the
Yes,
point guard position.
definitely an impactful team player. Team plays better when he's on the court. And the other Missouri Valley transfer, for them in total, the final one is Troy D'Amico from Southern Illinois, following Brian Mullins, as we mentioned him coming onto the staff. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be a guy that sees a huge role, but I think his shooting at the four can just, we'll get him some minutes here and there.
Yeah, just kind of a support guy, can do a little bit of everything.
Mm,
Decent shooter, good passer.
yeah.
Definitely a role to fill off the bench.
Yes, I think yeah, very good role player and limited minutes. A few other high major guys that Holman got to round out the roster. JJ Trainer from Louisville, coming from one train wreck program to another. Although DePaul is on the up, so. But speaking about last year, two disasters of programs. But yeah, he was hurt most this year. Actually, got hurt right before the game when Louisville played DePaul, so he did not play in that. And yeah, but he was actually like solid offensively 2 years ago, as he was this year, but small sample size. But 2 years ago, when Louisville was even worse, he was actually decently efficient offensively, and having that high major pedigree as a recruit and all that stuff, I think that will be beneficial. I think he has 2 years left of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken, even though he's been around for a while. So yeah, a lot of things to like with him.
Yeah, played just 8 games last year, but he can do a little bit of everything. Solid scorer, good rebounder, and then shot 37% from three. So another guy that can space the floor a bit.
Yes, last transfer taken, CJ Gunn from Indiana. Didn't have really live up to expectations with Indiana. Was kind of up and down. Did end his Indiana career with a 17-point game. Um, but yeah, not yeah, didn't really live up to expectations. But I think he can be pretty dynamic if he really gets in the role. DePaul is so like there's so many ways that their roster can pan out. So I don't know if he's gonna start or play like 10 minutes a game, but there's a lot of potential with him.
Yeah, there's potential. I think I like the other guys in the backcourt more, but that's just because I guess I've seen better things from them. Gunn was at obviously a tougher situation to get minutes, but
Yes. A little bit more highly regarded prospect coming out of high school, though. So yeah, we will see how that shakes up if he's able to live up to that. Not quite as high as a blocker, but yeah, still I believe it was a 4-star. And yeah, a few freshmen on the team as well. I don't think either of them are in position to get minutes. In fact, I think it's probably likely that both of them end up redshirting. One is Chris Riddle, who was actually he did stay around from the Stubblefield era, was committed, and Holtman hung on to him. A local 3-star shooting guard. So, yeah, don't think he has a chance to play this year. So I think it would be beneficial with a red shirt. And then Saku Kana was the other piece that he added. And I actually like the upside with him. Think his frame, athleticism, and defensive abilities definitely line up for some a pretty significant future. With his ceiling that's still a lot to get to, but definitely think there's a lot of potential with him. But yeah, I think it would be wise for both of them to redshirt.
Yeah, I like what they can provide in the long term, but I don't really see a path to them. Seen
Yes,
any time this year, both kind of developmental guys.
yes. Yeah. So, what are your overall thoughts on DePaul? Yeah,
I put them 10th in the Big East. I have them ahead of
yes.
Georgetown. I guess we talked about that a little in
As
yesterday's
do I.
video. I think 3 to 5 conference wins is realistic. Last year we saw Georgetown and DePaul combined for 2, but I think the bottom of the conference is a bit closer to the top this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think they can get some conference wins. One will be more than they had last year, but yeah, I think the biggest thing about this roster is it doesn't have the like super high major pieces. Like I think there's a lot of like good high major role players, but there's no one that like is a high major like first or second or maybe even like third best player.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like I kind of like how it all comes together. A lot of good shooters. I think um I don't know, all of these top 10 guys really could lead the team in scoring if it bounces their way on any given night. Um
Yes. Yeah, I feel like when I was like when DePaul kept getting guys, I'm like, oh, yeah, like that's a good high major bench player, and like, oh, that's a good high major like fifth starter, like, and then they never really got any better guys. But still, like you saw where the guys from last year's team went earlier in the video. Like if you're getting like good high major like fifth starters, like six men, like those guys didn't even belong near a high major court. So that's
yeah.
a big upgrade.
And a lot of these guys are higher potential. You'll see how they pan out in the long term. Jacob Meyer, Layden Blocker, Thomas, Gunn, and then Benson also 2 years, I think, as you talked
Yes.
about, can really blossom.
Yes. So yeah, 90th obviously isn't great by any means from a national perspective, but when you're talking about a team that finished outside the top 300 last year, I think they'd be pretty happy with 90th this year over 200 spot jump. Obviously, so yeah, as you mentioned, you have them 10th the Big East, as do I. So yeah, like this isn't going to be the year DePaul like suddenly like makes a tournament. But I don't think it's too far away. Like I really don't think that day is too far away.
Yeah. Um, in today's day and age, you kind of have to see by a year by year basis what happens. But I think next going into next year, they keep a lot of pieces, and maybe
Yes.
that could hint towards a tournament team.
Yeah, I mean if they get like a few big pieces from the portal and retain their core, I think that could be big because I think that I'm pretty sure they have like some actual money in the program. They just didn't want to spend it on Stubblefield, but I think they have like NIL money, which I don't know how much they have considering their transfer. Like they didn't get like a big fish from the portal, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
definitely a program rising.
yeah, if you have half a decent season, um, if you're Chris Holtmann, I think the money will start to flow.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, DePaul not gonna be the year, but definitely the start of the process. Really like the future under Chris Holman, proven to win the Big East, proven to win the Big Ten. I mean, like had some really good years. I think he's definitely an upgrade. Very good offensive coach. So yeah, I think I think there's definitely a lot to look ahead for if you're a DePaul fan. Something that hasn't really been like DePaul hasn't really had anything to look forward to. I mean, they've had some like moments here and there, but they really haven't had anything going, but now they do. So yeah. Any more thoughts before we head off to day 90, 80, 89 would be the next day.
Shout out Connor Enright. He's a dog. Uh,
He is a dog.
Go Drake.
Yeah, go Drake and go DePaul. Um, yeah, day 89 up next.